to Immigration Nation. I am delighted to do this little episode today because I've got one of my favorite guests on from a foregone time. She joined me to do lots of podcast episodes in the past. She was a staple on the podcast, and I've finally been able to get her to come join me on Immigration Nation today. And today is a fun one. It is all about what's been happening in Canada and the question of whether or not Canada immigration is crazy. All right. Well, without further ado, let me bring on the other contestant in this bout between is Canada, are they crazy or not? Ronalee Carey. Welcome, Ronalee. How are you doing?
I'm great, Mark.
Awesome. So now on the surface, it may seem like this is going to be a bout between someone who thinks Canada is crazy, Ronalee, which she doesn't really think they're crazy, and myself, who just loves Canada immigration and immigration, refugee, citizenship Canada and everything that they're doing. And specifically what we're going to talk about is these changes that have occurred, Draw 176, that massive big scoop of 27,332 invitations, and then this recent massive announcement, 90,000 plus new applicants that are through this temporary resident to permanent resident pathways program that was just announced that's going to launch on May the 6th. So that's what we're talking about, Ronalee. So how are you doing over there? Ronalee's in Ottawa. So how is the nation's capital doing, Ronalee?
Well, I had snow on my car this morning. We had beautiful spring weather for weeks. Everybody's got their yards ready and everything. And then there was snow this morning. It was a little bit disappointing.
But here's Canada. Here's Canada. So how long is this snow actually going to last?
Oh, it's gone already.
Exactly, right? Wake up in the morning, the windshield might be a little frosted. Well, even now there's probably not a lot of frost. It's just the snow that hits the ground and might stick around for maybe 20 minutes, and then it melts. So we're the same way. But we've got a lot of people that are jumping in here. We're already up to 55, which is great. And so just to give you guys a little bit of okay, I'm going to show this already because this is what some of our guests are already tuning in and saying here. So Alexa in Toronto says, what can you say about the 90,000 cap set for TR to PR program? Is this reasonable or crazy? That is exactly
crazy.
It's amazing. That is what we're going to be talking about today. So Alexa, thank you very much for that comment because that sets the stage for our discussion today. And I think to a large extent, Ronalee and I are going to go a little bit back and forth on these two programs, but we're going to talk about it in a little bit different way because obviously everybody speaks from their heart and they have their feelings, and usually their feelings are directly related to how these decisions are impacting them personally. Well, Ronalee and I are going to take some time to really kind of unpack it from two different perspectives. And but before we get there, you guys need to understand and know who Ronalee is. And if you were to go back and listen to the previous podcast episodes that I did with her, you'd get a little bit of intel. But Ronalee, tell us a little bit about yourself. So you are a practicing immigration lawyer in Ottawa. How did you get there?
Oh, totally by accident. It's amazing how many immigration lawyers never expected to do immigration law. I grew up in a little community in Northern Ontario, 5,000 people. We had two immigrant families in our community, my fifth grade teacher and the family that owned the movie theater. That was it. So when I, left for Ottawa to go to law school, immigration law wasn't anything that I was thinking about. So I completely fell into it just because an opportunity came up.
Well, tell us about that. So what have you done? Like in your legal career, you didn't just jump in and become an immigration lawyer. So what kind of things did you do in that journey to ultimately arrive here? Because I know, like all of us, it was not the pursuit of money. That was not the driver. If we wanted to do that, we would be doing something else. So
we'd
how
all
did
be
you
doing
end up?
corporate work.
Yeah, we
Right.
would.
No, so I started my career as a family law lawyer, and that career lasted all of 12 months. And at the end of my first year as a lawyer with a firm here in Ottawa doing some general litigation, but mostly family law litigation, we adopted a baby from the Children's Aid Society here in Ottawa. And I was supposed to take 6 months off work and then go back. But in that 6 months, we had an opportunity to apply to adopt another child, and it fell through. Nothing because of us, but because a
Yep.
family member came out of the woodwork and said they would
Right.
take the child. And they always try to
Yes.
keep the children with
Within
family
the
members.
family. Yep.
So, leaving after with a week's notice the first time around was pretty rough. So I decided, you know what? I'm just gonna stay home now until till we get a second placement.
Yep.
And well, it ended up being a 10-year hiatus from the
Mhm.
practice of law, and 3 children ended up appearing
Mhm.
instead of just another one.
Yep.
And that was because the 3rd child was biologically related to the 2nd because they try to keep kids together.
Yes, they do.
So
Yes.
after I
Yep.
had taken this hiatus for 10 years, I thought, "Well, now what am I gonna do?" I had 3 children, um, all in early years of school at the
Mhm.
time. I didn't wanna do the full-time law thing, because I still wanted to be able to, take my kids to their extracurricular activities and things like that. So I was looking around for a part-time position, and I ran into a woman I had gone to law school with, at a law society function, and she had hired a, international, lawyer and, someone not trained in Canada to help her, but that person was moving. So she said, "Well, I have this kind of quasi lawyer position. It's more like a paralegal, and it's part-time. Would you like to do it?" And I jumped on that position right away. I think I started the
Mhm.
next week.
Yep.
So she happened to do immigration law. And so I learned from her and from other individuals in the law community, and by doing a lot of reading, and I had to read like the legislation and really boring things like that. And eventually I learned enough that when the lawyer I was working for moved, across the province to be closer to her family, I took over the files she had in Ottawa and hung up a shingle.
Wonderful.
So
And the
it's
rest
been a
is
wild
history.
ride.
That is
So
awesome.
I handle things a little bit differently because, I didn't come into it through a big firm. I came into it as an entrepreneur and started from the ground up. So, I take on clients that other people might not, and I'm willing to do different kinds of practice arrangements with, people that work with me, but also with my clients, just like you do, Mark, about
Mhm.
not insisting that the fee is gonna be this amount and you can't do any of the work yourselves. We have to do it all. I have a flexible system depending on what the client needs.
Awesome. And those of you who are wondering, wow, I already like Ronalee. You can contact her in the link below. I'll show you what. So we appreciate you guys connecting in your comments. So Tariq says, "Hey, Mark and Ronalee, how you doing? Thanks for doing the live shows." And that means a lot. For me, when I see that, that gives me a desire to keep doing them. When I know people actually, it's useful to them. Now, as we go through this, Ronalee, I've got a ton of questions and a ton of comments that are already piling in before we even have a chance to have the discussion. So I've got to set some ground rules here. I've pulled up a few comments just to highlight how it works for Ronalee, and we will get to your questions. We will. But right at the beginning, hold off on asking your questions initially, because Ronalee and I are just going to have a little bit of discussion about what the topic is. Is Canada crazy? So, Ronalee, you've got her position that she's taken the position that in some respects, they absolutely are crazy. And I'm taking the position that not at all. This just makes perfect sense. And I think we both probably will arrive somewhere in the middle there. And we're probably more closely aligned than we are different with this. But for the purpose of this discussion, that's kind of how we're going to approach it. So let's start with the first crazy thing that we did not anticipate. And that was draw 176 with express entry, the CEC draw that pulled out 27,332 individuals with a CRS score of 75. And Ronalee and I, we talked about this. You can't get 75 if you're listing even any education, let alone high school. The only way you can get there is basically to have a spouse. Actually, you have to have a spouse that's claiming a few points for the spouse, and then 1 year of skilled work experience and a CLB 5. That's it. So it's an interesting kind of
CLB
situation.
5, depending on your NOC code.
Yeah.
So some of them would have
Yeah.
had to have had CLB 7 in order to
Yeah.
qualify, but then they would have had a score of more than
They would have
75,
had
so
way more than 75. Yeah, it's crazy. So when you look at that, so that big, massive draw, never before had we seen anything like this. And so from your perspective, well, what was that impact like for people on the ground? And how did you see that draw? Was that a wise thing for immigration to do? Or do you think they were crazy?
So, first of all, I want to say I don't take objection to any of the new programs that immigration has brought in. And I don't object to them cleaning out the express entry, the people that are in that pool
No
waiting to
fair.
be
You're taking
accepted.
away my position.
No,
You're
no, I
undermining my
don't
position.
disagree with it at
This is
all. I
classic.
disagree with the method, not the objective. Okay?
Okay. Okay. The
And I have
method, not
nothing
the
against
objective.
those 27,332 people who got, um, who got invited to apply on that day in February. I'm so happy for all of those people.
Okay. We'll cheer for them. Yes.
But
Okay.
I
So what
think
do you
the way that
object to?
immigration is doing it's the way that immigration is doing it. The methods that they have chosen aren't fair.
Okay. Why? Why are they not fair? Has immigration
Okay.
ever been fair? Has any of the
Well,
decisions they've made been fair?
so, why do we want immigrants in Canada? Why do we want people to come here? What is our objective by getting immigrants in? Okay? So, if we have an objective and that is what we're publicizing, come to Canada because, way back when Canada was first starting out as a country, it was come to Canada, we'll give you free land. Well, now what's our marketing gig now?
Come to
Come to
Canada and you'll
Canada.
get PR.
Right?
At least
So, if
at
we're
least that's what they're peddling to the students, right? International
yeah.
students. Come to Canada as a student and you'll get permanent residence.
For all 3% that are actually going to get permanent residence. I'm speaking about that topic at the National Immigration Law Conference.
Mhm.
Okay, here's the thing, Mark. I feel like I've been really grumpy lately. Like, I write a monthly blog, and often I've got great things to say. Oh, I love this program. Every blog post I've done the last couple of months has been whiny. I've turned into a whiner.
Well, there's probably a very good foundation for it. So back to the fairness. And
Right.
I kind of disrupted you a little bit.
Yeah.
So with this process then, this massive draw, the big scoop, no notice, and you and I both
Right.
know not even the provincial nominee programs knew this was going to happen.
Right.
So
No, that
so
was pretty clear.
yeah.
So,
So
so if we're peddling a particular vision of what we want immigrants in Canada to come, and that's what we're advertising, and that's what people are expecting, and then they go and they do something that brings in a whole different type of person without any notice, what is that saying to us as Canadians? Right? Like, okay, last week we only wanted immigrants like this, but now we'll take immigrants that look like this. And as Canadians, we're asking the Canadian public to support this, they're like, well, why? How come somebody had to have a score of 476 last week and this week 75 is okay? Like, you're telling us you're only bringing in skilled immigrant that are well educated and well adaptable to Canadian economy. Are you telling me these people with 75 are just going to be as great for our economy? And if they are great, how come we weren't bringing them in before? It's just not logical and it's really bad PR as far as I'm concerned.
and so
And then
you've
for the
heard the spin, right? You've seen the spin though, Ronalee. The spin that I totally subscribe to is that that employers are clamoring for this. Employers want us to do this. It's essential for our economy and our economic recovery that even these lower, well, human capital, I guess,
Mhm.
individuals are going to contribute to the lifting us out of this, this pandemic imposed, um, you know, uh, like period of economic decline.
So that brings me to my second point. So we
Mhm.
we know of how it looks to Canadians, right? It looks fishy for Canadians. We know employers are clamoring. Great. But what about all the people who weren't in the express entry pool in February because they'd come to somebody like me and they'd paid me $400 for a consult. And I had told them, there's no way you're going to get
Yep.
accepted right now. Wait until you have
Yep.
2 years of work experience. I want you to go and I want you to redo your language test. I want you to get an educational credential assessment for your spouse's degree. We're going to bump up your score and then you'll be eligible. Your score will be high enough. So, all of those people who didn't have profiles set up, I don't have any problem, like I said, about them scooping people out of the pool. What I don't like is they did it without any warning. Why couldn't they have said, because employers are clamoring for workers and because of the pandemic and because we haven't been able to bring people from other countries, we are going to open up the Canadian experience class to more applicants. You are put on notice. Get your paperwork together. We're going to be drawing more people from within Canada over the next 3 months.
Okay.
That would have been a sensible thing to do, and I wouldn't be whining. And all of the people who missed out on that draw because they didn't have a profile set up yet wouldn't be flaming hot angry, which I think a lot of people probably are.
Okay, so so I'll play the other side now. So we've
Okay.
got a world now, Ronalee, where they have done exactly that. So they've said
Yes.
on May the 6th, we're going to open this up. And what has been the consequence of that? And many of the listeners can probably see everybody's freaking out now because they can't get a language test booked fast enough. So
In
now
Ontario,
so
you
now all
cannot
of
book a
these
language
people,
test till December.
right. So now
Okay.
all of these people are saying, well, this is unfair because now only the people who have language tests, even though I know it's coming in 2 weeks from now, they're going to all get in because there's a cap and there's only so much space. So if we take that kind of argument back to 176 and we say there was people that were in the pool for 8-9 months who'd already done their medicals, who'd done everything they could, and they just believed that I'm going to put a profile in, those individuals had a shot. In some cases, the people that had been languishing, who maybe were duped or tricked or whatever by some unscrupulous representative to put a profile in, and they paid that representative to submit it, and they had no chance. And I told them, wow, you got tooken, right, by that person,
Yep.
and you should never have bothered. Well, now they have a possibility of going forward when they didn't before. And so you're always, when it comes to fairness, I agree. It sucks. Some people are always going to get screwed. They are.
Yep.
And so
And
the,
people are going to be getting screwed this time around again,
yeah.
Mark, because who are the people who are going to be able to submit a complete application on May 6th for a program that doesn't even have the instructions out yet,
Mhm.
right? It's people who have applied for provincial nomination programs, who already had their language tests.
Yep.
It's people who I had people who I'm doing express entry applications for, and we figure that this program might be given priority and processing might be quicker.
Mhm.
So we're going to take them out of the express entry system and we're going to put them in this new temporary pathway because they already have their medical examinations and they already have their police certificates.
Yes.
Right? So those are the people that are going to benefit.
Mhm.
It's not going to
Absolutely.
benefit a lot, the people in those essential
Mhm.
categories, the ones that the
Yep.
government was trying to reach, the
Mhm.
people who had no chance before aren't going to have a language test. They're not going to have a medical examination. They're not going to have police certificates. They're not going to have everything else that they're going to need in order to submit a complete application by 9:45 a.m. on May 6th, which is kind of when I figure the program's going to get
Yeah.
full.
Yeah, you think that's when it's going to be like a 5-minute process before it's full. It's interesting. So here's what I want the listeners that are watching here live, and we have 109 now, Ronalee. So the listeners that are watching, I want you guys to chime in. Do you think it's unfair? Do you think that draw 176, and I want you guys to tell us this. Do you think that draw 176, that big scoop, and then this new TR to PR pathways program for essential workers, healthcare, and French-speaking applicants, do you guys think that that is unfair for the government to do this? So Christine right here, she says she is totally right, speaking to Ronalee.
You're my new friend, Christine.
It was very unfair to many of us. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one comment. So I want you to post your comments right now and tell me if that's how you feel. Um, let's see what we have here. Okay, so George here says Canada needs immigrants more than immigrants need Canada. Thank you. Okay,
And you
George.
know what? George
Yep.
is so right because,
Mhm.
you read articles and they talk about how the birth rate in the countries where we get
Yep.
immigrants from, India, for example, is declining and the population is aging just like it is in other countries in Canada. So immigrants aren't going to want to come to very cold Canada where you wake up on a day in April in the nation's capital and you have to wipe snow off your windshield of your car. Why would they do that when they can stay where it's nice and warm?
Because they
And
love to
so this
ski, Ronalee. They love to ski and build snow forts with
they
their
can come
kids
to
and
Whistler.
toboggan down the hills.
They can come for vacation. So,
They love
this is what
having
I'm saying about.
they love having no bugs that are crawling all over them at night. No cockroaches and well, I don't know, maybe you have cockroaches out there, but we don't have any here. So
What
they
do you
should move to
mean? You
Lethbridge.
can't go outside in Ottawa in the summer because you'll get bitten by a gazillion mosquitoes.
Oh, the wind blows them away here.
Oh, no. Ottawa is awful. Like, it's just awful. You have to douse yourself in chemicals from head to toe to be able to walk outdoors. So, this is what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
immigration, by doing this and by frankly pissing so many people off, you know, they they're not doing themselves a long-term service in terms of their PR.
Mhm. Good point. Okay.
Short-term gain
Okay.
for bad long-term PR.
Okay, and I'm with this person who's obviously a consultant. No, it wasn't unfair because the government can never make all of them happy. There will always be a section of the crowd missed. I agree with that because the people that are hoping, that have taken a chance, who've spent the money knowing that they don't have a prayer, don't have an opportunity, then magically a prayer that was unspoken has now been answered. And so I agree 100% with the checkbox here. Let's see here. Let's get some more. We'll get some more comments here. So Rangika says lots of people assumed it will fill within few weeks. Then why they set the time frame for this program until November? And that's a good
Only
point. Now
for the
remember,
French
yeah,
only for the
yeah,
French-speaking
yeah,
applicants.
yeah,
The
and
French-speaking applicants are gonna be the ones who are going to be able to go and get their language test and get their police certificates, and those will be the people that the government will select. I wish, maybe they should have just made it for francophone individuals because they could have met their target probably.
well, it'll be very interesting. So here, it's unfair everywhere. Think about Quebec students. And that's a fair statement, right? Obviously the policies in Quebec used to be really favorable. And then there was a change. There was a government change
Mhm.
immigrants fell out of favor if they didn't have very good French speaking abilities. And so if you're going to school at McGill, you're English speaking, you bet. That's a fair question here. Okay. I don't know what this person says. It is unfair to not answering customers' questions. I don't know what that is. Hey, I put everything up here, Ronalee. Okay, let's see here. Let's see what other questions we have. We've got some questions. Okay, and here we go. I told you this would come. So Shweta says, do something for PR applications, which has one Outland applicant. Okay, I think what they're saying is basically that the pathways are not open. Let's see. Hope they did not accept IELTS academic for this program. No, they will not accept
No, they're not.
academic IELTS academic. It has to be
And
general.
why not? They should
Yeah.
be, but anyway.
Yep. Okay, and then we've got here, sincerely Moni. She says a time frame is set in the event that it does not fill up. They need to have a cutoff date. Well, that's, I guess if
They
it
do.
did, you'd have to cut it off. That's true. If somehow the healthcare worker, for instance, there isn't as many as they actually think there are, or maybe they've got some other pathway they're pursuing, well, then that's a possibility. So this is a temporary program that has grown out of public policy. It's not built in anything other than the minister says, I think it's a good idea for us to do this. It'll be in everybody's best interest. Trust me, Ronalee. Trust me, this is a good decision. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Okay, and you can see these questions, Ronalee. If Tech says, hey, will the express entry for FSW Outland end in the coming future? Most importantly, will we see any FSW draws this year? What do you think, Ronalee, given this crazy Canadian immigration program here? Like, do you think they're
I
going to
think,
open it up?
yeah, well, they were doing some federal skilled worker draws. previously, right? Like during the
Yep, they
pandemic,
were.
at the beginning,
Yep.
they weren't. And then they started doing federal skilled worker draws again. But I think the federal skilled worker applicants are really being disadvantaged because they're not letting them come to Canada even if their application has been approved.
Yeah.
They're only letting people land in Canada if they meet one of the exemptions, like they have a spouse in Canada, for example, or if they were approved before March 18th, which is when everything went downhill. Um, and why not? I don't understand why not, because they can come, they can do their mandatory government hotel quarantine, they can do their 11-day quarantine at home, they can do their test before they arrive, they can do their test on arrival and their
Hmm.
test at day
Hmm.
10,
Yeah.
just like all of our temporary foreign workers and our international students are doing. So why aren't we letting these approved individuals come to Canada? So thank you.
This this is where I agree with you. I agree 100%. Why can they not take those steps? Why do they have to keep them out? And this is where I put it on cabinet, Ronalee. Like I put that decision on cabinet. I put it on our Prime Minister Trudeau. I put it on the people that are making those decisions to keep our borders closed. And so
Mhm.
I don't see that as an immigration problem. I see this here as immigration frantically trying to find a solution to these marching orders that they've received, which says we are to allow 401,000 new immigrants into Canada in 2021.
So
So,
I
what are
guess
your thoughts
I
on that, Ronalee?
Yeah, so I think that they could meet 401 immigrants for 2021 if they would simply process the applications that have already been submitted and allow the people to come to Canada.
Yep. Yep. I'll,
I
I'll give
have
you
an
one of these
express
again.
entry application.
Yeah, you've got a lot of supporters here, Ronalee. They're cheering in the background.
I love when you can just press that button. So I have an express entry application waiting since 2019, and it's a simple application.
Yeah.
Why is that not processed? He's a professor at the University of Ottawa. He lives here. 2019. He's got his letter of employment. He has an LMIA. What's the problem?
Yeah.
Why isn't he finished?
Yeah.
What about all of our family sponsorships? Like I just finally got one approved for Philippines, 2 years.
Yeah.
2
Yeah.
years. No inadmissibilities,
Yeah.
genuine marriage. They used to live together here in Canada.
Mhm.
What's the problem? So I don't understand why they're making all of these new programs hoping to meet their numbers. And then all of these people are just going to wait and wait and wait to get processed because all these TR to PR people are going to get processed first. It's not fair and it
Okay.
doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so here's a good question, and I want your take because our last podcast, some of them were on the private sponsorship of refugees, and you guys have to listen to it. Just so cool. Ronalee and a group of other really, really like-minded individuals got together to support the sponsorship, the private sponsorship of some refugees. And Ronalee, you were telling me that one of those families, you're actually in the process of helping with citizenship now.
Yep. Yep. They've been here long enough that they meet the requirements. Yep. It's
Very
very
cool.
exciting.
So we have Casita here, and the question is, tell me about the refugee claimants. Could they be eligible if they have the qualifications?
No,
No, they
no,
can't.
because they don't have temporary residence in Canada. You only get temporary residence if you apply for a visitor visa, a study permit, or a work permit, and you're in Canada. When you come to Canada and you make a refugee claim, you're not granted temporary status. You're given a removal order that is stayed. So any work experience that you're getting cannot be used towards an economic program, with the exception of the healthcare pathway that opened not too long ago.
Yeah.
So I have, a number of my refugee claimants. So these are people who have applied for refugee status within Canada, not people who were approved before they came here. And they're not even going to have a refugee hearing because they're going to get permanent residence under this new healthcare worker pathway.
And that's the one that they're referring to as the Guardian Angel program, Ronalee? Is
Well,
that?
so many refugee claimants end up becoming personal support workers, at least in
Mhm.
Ontario,
Yeah.
because, refugee claimants, until they're permitted to work, are often put on social assistance,
Mhm.
and social assistance will help them do the personal support worker credentialing program, and they can enter the workforce almost immediately because there's such a need. So many of these refugee claimants end up being healthcare workers,
Mhm.
and a lot of them have been working on the front lines during the pandemic. We actually had a death in Ontario at the very beginning of the pandemic of a 19-year-old Syrian refugee who was working as in a home for the elderly, and he
Mhm.
actually got COVID and died after a workplace exposure. So I'm sure that that was informing immigration when they came up with this pathway.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, here's another comment from Alexa. She says that she thinks 1,560 hours is a bit unfair for essential workers. They're the ones who work tirelessly outside their homes. My friend is 80 hours short, but never stopped working during the lockdown. So, Alexa, our question, I guess, for you is this is a rolling kind of thing. So, is your friend still working? Are they no longer working? The ability to claim hours can be accumulated in part-time as well. And so that's one of the, you're right. If they're fully short 80 hours and now they're no longer working in that position and they can't meet the full 1560, then yeah, it's tough. The challenge is that they have to draw the line somewhere. And to a large extent, they have tried to follow a lot of the patterns that were originally created with Express Entry and the
Mhm.
CEC program. And Deval here says, help me understand if there will be more CEC. So, Ronalee,
Yes. Yeah,
yeah.
they just did a draw recently and they took 6,000 CEC applicants. What but what's really hard to know, if you're an applicant, when you look at the Express Entry, where they have all of the draws on the immigration website,
Mhm.
and it tells you by every 10 points how many people are in the pool. It doesn't differentiate between federal skilled worker applicants and Canadian experience applicants in that pool. So we don't know, like I did a blog for my website, and had I had kept the stats of how many people were in the pool before the draw in February and then a month later. So I knew how many people had joined the pool, but I didn't know how many of them were Canadian experience class applicants. So we don't know yet. Like, we can sort of go by the score. I think the last draw was 429. So there's a lot of CEC applicants who don't have that high of a score. So they're not dropping the CEC program down enough to be scooping up all of the applicants.
Okay, let's take a look here, Ronalee. Let's see. It's going to just put me up here, but I want to just open this up here and I'm going to move this over. This is on the fly. We're doing this kind of stuff. So here's Ronalee's website. And she's been referring back to a lot of these amazing blogs. Okay,
Yeah, go to the
so
newsletter link.
we go to newsletter right
Yep.
here, and then you guys can go here and read this because there's some good stuff here. So
You can read all of my whining.
Canadian immigration fire sale on now. Isn't that awesome? That is a catchy title. This is awesome. So this is referring to our TRPR pathway.
Yep. Yeah,
That's
I did
awesome.
that blog, I think the day after it came up. Yep.
That is awesome. Look at
And
that.
then that was the one where I compared the numbers between who was in the express entry pool of applicants
Mhm.
before and after that big draw in February.
Yeah,
But,
very
I
cool.
really wish they would have a column for federal skilled worker, provincial nominee, CEC, or both, because a lot of people who qualify for the CEC program also qualify for the federal skilled worker program.
Yes.
Because without those numbers, it's really hard to advise people. So to answer a question like, are there going to be more CEC draws? Well, of course they are. But the question is, who's going to get selected through the CEC draws? How low is the score going to drop? Well, we don't know because we don't know what the competition is.
No, we don't. I love this one, Ronald.
Yeah,
This is my favorite.
whining. It's
Look at
whining.
this. Hey, but this is your avenue to do it. And so you guys go here, go check Ronalee's site out. You can see she's got her legal fees here. She's got resources. She's got information about, and then the contact page. So go check this out. This is Ronalee's site, and you can learn more about her. And absolutely, you guys get over there. And if you need anything, click on the link below because we do have a straight link to the site if you're wondering. All right. Okay, let's see what other people have to say here. This is kind of fun. So Vinay says, I hope IRCC has analysts doing review of the policy applications at the end, at least to see how much of their original goal for the policy is achieved. That is exactly right, Vinay. And one of the independent research organizations called the Conference Board of Canada has a National Immigration Center, and that is exactly what they're going to do. So for these Feb 13ers, draw 176, they're going to map these in a longitudinal empirical study to see what the outcomes are. And it'll take some time, but I am a firm advocate that it doesn't matter whether you have a PhD or whether you're someone who's got a high school who works on a farm. And I told Ronalee before we got on the call here that my father had a grade 6 education. My mother had grade 10, and she went on to actually be a licensed practical nurse. She had a long career, basically breaking her back, lifting patients and up and down hospital floors that were hard. And she that was her life. But her and my father, who's passed away now, were the absolute pillars in our community. And our small little community, rural Southern Alberta, they were the ones that were driving all the activities. They were the ones that were contributing to the culture and the vibrancy of our community, when the ones that had the money, that had the education, they just couldn't be bothered. So I absolutely love this decision. And I know Ronalee said that she doesn't have a problem with the candidates, but she has a problem with
Yeah, because I don't think they're going to get the kind of candidates, Mark, that you're talking about. We're not going to be getting the PSWs applying through the healthcare pathway because they knew they were never eligible for express entry. They haven't done any of the things that they needed to do to get an application on May 6th. So Vinay's comment about we're hoping that IRCC will do analysis. I want to know, when all this is done, which of those essential occupations they actually took. Because I bet that we're going to see most of the candidates, not for the French programs because they have more time to prepare, but for the English-speaking candidates, I think they're going to come from a pool of applicants of people who might have used the Canadian Experience class program instead and were ready with all of their documents in hand. This is not going to work for the truck drivers and, the people who, cashiers and all those people that they think they're going to attract. I'd love to be proven wrong, but that's why I keep saying it's not fair, because they're not giving people enough time.
Yeah.
Like if they open this program up for the next year, like we're going to be in pandemic recovery mode for a long time.
Yeah. And maybe they will
open the program up for the next year or two.
Yeah. Maybe they might do that. Yeah. That's the thing. This is temporary. We know that there's an end date, but they may very well choose to do that depending on what happens this year. So I think we all hope that the pandemic will be brought under control and that we have the ability to return back to some semblance of normal, including the borders opening. But we'll just have to see how it goes. Now, Addie here says they also have not mentioned whether international students have to be working or just employed. So what about international grads? Yeah, and we'll talk about
Addie,
this.
So this is another one of my things. So the rule is you must be employed on the day you submit your application. You don't need to be employed the day before you submit your application, and then you don't need to be employed the day after. And if you worked 9 months and 11 days in the last year, if you're not working on the day of your application, you're out of luck. It's not fair.
What about the requirement to be employed at the time in which your application is approved, though?
No, it doesn't say that. I looked at it again this morning because there was some listserv posts for the Canadian Bar Association National Immigration Law section, and someone made that comment, and I went and I looked at the policy again, and it says at the time of submission of the application. Okay, we're gonna bring it up and let's make sure, because it's been a really busy day and I looked at it really quickly, but that was my understanding. So maybe we should look at it once again.
I'm gonna look at it because otherwise I'm gonna be maybe teaching the wrong stuff here. So let's open this up. I'm gonna pull up the actual policy. Okay, so we've got that. There's the eligibility. Okay, let's go with essential workers. Okay, so we'll pull up essential workers.
We'll have a race to see who can get to it quick, fast.
Okay, I win. So I'm gonna get this over here. I'm gonna get it lined up nice, and then we're gonna dive in and take a peek here and see. Okay, so background, blah 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 blah. I don't care about any of this.
Go on, keep going.
Be employed in Canada at the time that the application for permanent residence is received. must meet the definition, must have been, have attained a level of proficiency, have attained a level of proficiency at level bench,
If I'm right, I get clapping, okay?
I think you already get clapping. Reside in Canada with a valid temporary resident status, be
Yep.
physically present in Canada at the time the
Right.
application is received and when the application is approved. You're right, Ronalee. You are dead on right.
Right. And can I whine about something else now? You see how where you
No,
just
no, no
highlighted it?
more
No, no,
whining.
no. No, no, no.
Okay,
So
show me.
Mark,
You, yeah,
you see where it says that you must have be physically present in Canada and have valid status when the
yeah.
application is received and when the application is approved,
So not
okay?
between, you're
So
saying?
no, no, no. So you're here on a post-graduation work permit. It's a 1-year post-graduation work permit. You apply through this temporary pathway and you're working on the day that you submit your application. So you've met that requirement, but you're here on a 1-year post-graduation work permit. If they don't process the application for 6 months, how are you supposed to stay in Canada and keep working? They're
Yeah,
not granting bridging open
yeah,
work permits.
I agree, Ronalee. I'll give you another one of these right there. I agree. You are right. So now I
So
have to, and
all their only choice is to stay in Canada, apply to be stay here as a visitor, and
yeah.
not work while their application is processed. Well, how is that supposed to have Canada to have a bunch of unemployed people lying around wasting their money that they would be using to save up for a
Mhm.
house or something like that while
Yeah.
their application's getting processed?
And this is good because this is a great opportunity as we're doing videos just like this live streams to point this out to immigration. And that is great, Ronalee, because I overlooked it. So now I have to go back and I'll show you here something. This is where when you do stuff live, you better be prepared. So I'll show you, I'm going to flip over here to my YouTube channel here. And then we'll flip screens back here. So you see on my YouTube channel, there's us. There's our live that's happening right now. We have 140 people that are watching live here. So yeah, we've got Tamara tomorrow. So this one right here that has, okay, this one's got 5.4. Okay, so this one that I did last night, this, and I guess this one here that I did, this one, are you eligible? So in here, I specifically talked about the fact that you needed to be employed. I think I did. I hope I didn't, but I think I did talk about the fact that you would need to be employed at the time in which the application was submitted and at the end. So touche, good for you for clarifying that. And I'm going to need to do a little adjustment in there
Right.
to correct
Well,
that. So
see, this is the problem, Mark. You and I, we live and breathe immigration law,
mhm,
right? And we're reading this stuff all the time and we're missing things. Like originally, you and I were only going to talk about Draw 176.
yeah.
And I spent, a significant amount of time researching and reading everyone else's blogs. And I had like 3 pages of typewritten notes. This is how I prepared for today. Like,
You can
you
see
know,
it.
how can you do a good job
Here's another
advising
person.
people?
Here's another person who's one of your fans, Ronalee. I think I'm outnumbered here. Why have they kept everything for the last minute to announce?
Remember, Mark, at the beginning of the session when you asked me a little bit about my background, and I said that I'd adopted 3 children, okay? I have learned how to whine from the best. When you raise children through to young adulthood, you have heard thousands of whines. So,
Okay,
yeah.
I got one right here for me. This is for me. It's a great decision because I wouldn't be eligible to apply until August since I need 1 year experience for express entry. Now I don't. So sincerely, Moni here, she has an opportunity that maybe, and she thinks in August she will have a chance, but nothing is
Right,
guaranteed. And now she has an opportunity. And we can always
right.
argue and say, well, sincerely, you are probably young, educated, you have a post-grad work permit waiting for you. You have plenty of options in the future, and you don't
She's
necessarily need
not
to
the one
take
who
this,
needs it.
right? Yeah, you
Yep,
probably don't need it. And it's going to take a spot from maybe one of these, here in
yep,
Alberta, we call them personal care attendants,
yep.
PCAs. And so, yeah, so those are the arguments, right? Okay, let's see
Right.
what else we have here. Okay, international grads like us with only 1 year post-secondary certificate are not included.
That's right.
Sad.
Yep. They're
That is
not.
right. Yep.
Yep.
And that's for all of you who were duped by some overseas education agent to believe that a 1-year program was a good thing. This is where it's all coming to fruition. And I hope people that are watching overseas that are, that are watching this trying to decide whether or not they're going to go to school. I'll be honest, I never advise anyone to do anything but a 2-year minimum program because you get a
Unless
3-year
it's a
work permit.
master's. Yeah,
Yeah,
unless
except
it's
a
a
master's.
master's
Yeah, yeah,
program and
yeah.
you're in British Columbia. That would be the only.
Yeah, the only
Yeah.
options because
And
you're
again,
limiting your options. Yeah, you're
I'm
with. Go ahead.
no, sorry. I mentioned earlier that I'm speaking at the national conference on the
Mhm.
issues of international students, and my paper will be available on my website. And
Mhm.
I'm talking about a lot of these things about how,
Great.
so many of these international students they're exploited. And I hate to just
Yes.
use that word lightly, but they're exploited by these overseas agents. They're exploited by Canadian institutions that need their money, and frankly, they're being exploited by the Canadian government, right? So, people like this that have come here and they've spent all this money on a post graduation program that was a year. They only got a 1-year post graduation work permit. That they're not getting the opportunities that
Yeah.
they thought they were signing up for.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, Ronalee,
Yeah.
this is Ronalee's website, everybody. You can check the link out in the description. Is it under the resource section? Is that where it will be?
No, so
Or where will you
actually,
put it?
in the About Us section, I have an in the media. So all the things that I've published, and it'll
Ah,
be in
that's
there. Yeah.
right in here.
So right there, the Ronalee in the media and speaking engagement. So if you click
Yes.
that, everything all the media articles I'm quoted in and all the papers
Great.
I've written are all there.
Look at that, guys.
So it'll be there.
Ronalee is the bomb. She's the bomb. Okay. All right. Let's go with a few more questions here, and then I think we're going to start to wrap this up because I have my Express Entry Masterclass that will be starting at 5 p.m. where I get a chance to do a private one-to-one. It's day 4 of this little program. Where individuals who purchase the do-it-yourself course, the step-by-step course, then tacked on is a 2-week Monday to Friday, 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Time little session. And I love this group. They are a phenomenal group. Okay, and with those of you, actually, it's my turn now. I'm just going to show you guys one thing, especially everybody that's asking all of these crazy questions about, well, they're saying, is Canada immigration crazy? And I, like Ronalee, we've had lots of discussions, and I've mentioned to her that I think they're just brilliant, and I love it. Well, part of the reason is because I do master classes, I do DIY courses, and so when you're going through this program, PR for International Students, all you have to do is come right here, click on this link right at the top of my website, and you can drop your email right here, your contact information, and then I will notify you. Because this weekend I'm creating my next do-it-yourself course with masterclass associated with it. So go over there, click on that link, and then I will, I'll let you guys know as soon as I've got that course ready because I know exactly what this sucker's going to look like. I know what the documents, the forms, although clearly I didn't understand all the rules of the program. Ronalee had to enlighten me that it's even more broadly worded than I ever envisioned. And so just to reiterate what she clarified for me and pointed out in the regulations is that the obligation to have employment is only on the very day that you click submit with your application. And so now I'm going to make sure that I reiterate that with everyone. So, and that's the beauty of this whole program. And that's the beauty of the master classes too, Ronalee, is because sometimes individuals will come up with information that I wasn't aware of. And then
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
benefits
It's
collectively.
almost embarrassing, but there's
Mm.
so many programs and
So
we have
much.
so many smart people
Yeah.
who are reviewing them, and
Yeah.
they it's like going to the doctor when you have
Yep.
like a rare disease. You end up knowing more about your
Yes.
disease than your doctor does because,
Yeah.
you see all the specialists. It's kind of like that with some of these programs. Like there are people who are reading everything they can about it, and they're on these forums and they're learning from each other.
Mhm.
I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause
It's
I have to
amazing.
worry about refugee claimants
Yeah.
and temporary workers and citizens and people getting citizenship, and
Yeah. All
it's
these
just too
other
much to stay on
areas.
top of. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got one that's totally unfair. Then Angel says it's an interesting topic, which is great. Okay, here we go. So Toby says, okay, so this is probably the clarification. So Hi, Ronalee. I just want to make sure I heard you right. You believe the 40,000 cap for international students will be filled in a day? I don't think you said that, but, or
I
did you
did.
say that? Oh, you
I
did?
said by 9:45 in the morning. So
Okay, all right.
Toby, in 2019, the Canadian government opened up the parental and grandparent sponsorship program to 20,000 applicants. They opened the program at noon. By 12:07, all 20,000 spots had been filled. Now, it was a bit different because all they had to do was fill out an expression of interest form. So
Yeah.
they just had to put in, this is my name, my birth date, and this is my parents' name and their birth date and their passport number. And they had to upload, I think, just each of their passports. And then they were, if they made the first 20,000, then they were told, okay, now submit your application in 90 days. So at first I thought maybe that's what they were going to do for these programs, but it doesn't look like that. So now you're going to have to submit a complete application. So all of your forms filled out and signed and scanned, your police certificates for every country you've lived in as an adult, basically, your medical report, your language results, any other documents, your letter of employment, you're going to have to be able to submit those on the first day. Okay. But Mark, in his DIY course, is going to have had 40,000 people come through. I'm kidding.
Yeah, that'd be
But,
awesome.
we bring in something like, what is it, Mark, 500 or 600,000 international students
Yeah,
right now in Canada,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And 3% is the numbers that we're playing with right now for the presentation that we're doing at the associate.
Really?
About 3%. Yeah,
That
I
are
have a
going to
Stats
be
Canada
that are going to
report
be
that
eligible.
yes, that convert to permanent residence. So I found a Stats Canada report that was dated 2015, and
That's
it said
crazy.
17 to 24%. So 75% or higher in 2015 were not getting permanent residence when they
Okay.
came here to study.
Okay,
But
well, this is a
remember,
little teaser.
in
Yeah.
2015, since then, the number of study permits that have been issued by Canadian government has gone through the roof. Like,
Roof.
it's a
Yeah.
400% difference.
Yeah.
And the number of spots in our immigration plan don't just include international students. They
Yeah.
also include provincial nominees, refugees, family sponsorships. So many people are not getting permanent residents who are international students. And all of those people are just waiting for a chance
Yeah.
to apply. So I think that the program, the 40,000, I definitely think that program will fill up that day. I
Mhm.
may be wrong, but
I'm
and I
I'm
think
crossing
it'll
my
fill up within
fingers
hours.
that I'm crossing my fingers that that is not the case. I think it's far more complicated to get it all done in one shot, and that it will take people quite a while, unless of
But Mark,
course they
you're
take my
not doing data
course.
entry. Yeah, but
What's
they're
that?
not doing data entry,
No, no,
right?
no. I know that, but they still have to
All they
make
have to
sure
do
and
is
be
upload
prepared.
forms.
Yeah, they have to be prepared with all the forms, all the documents ready, the reference letters. Remember, you've got other third parties that a lot of these people are still relying upon. There will be some that are ready to go, ready to hit the pavement, especially those who subscribe to my course. But aside from them, there's going to be other entities that they have to rely on. Now,
All right,
medicals and
Mark.
police certificates, I don't think we're going to get that, but we'll
Okay, Mark,
see.
let's put a bet. Who needs
Okay.
a bet?
Oh, the bet. Okay,
Come
I'm
on.
gonna go for essential workers. I'm gonna go with a
Okay, I'm
week.
going to write this down.
Okay, I'm
A
gonna go with
week?
one. I'm gonna go with 1 week for the 40,000 to be used up. That's what I'm gonna go with.
Wait,
Okay.
40,000 is for is not
Oh,
the
for
essential workers.
international students. Okay, international students.
You think international students are going to take 1 week?
Now why are you doing this to me,
Okay, I'm
Ronalee?
writing it down
Oh
because
man,
there's going to be a prize. One of us is going to
man.
win the bet and it's going to have to do something.
Okay, let me just see here. I just got to find the right one. Let's see if I can find it. This one? No, that's not the one. Just wait. There we go. Okay. Okay, I had to find the right music for this. I had to find the right music. Okay, what is Mark going to predict? Essential workers. Let's see. Okay, essential workers. I'm gonna go with a week for essential workers. Okay. I'm
Okay.
gonna go with a week. Okay?
You know what? I think I agree with you on that one, Mark.
Okay, because I'm buying some time to really think about this because I haven't really turned my mind to it. Okay, for students, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with 4 days. I'm going big. 4
Okay,
days.
I'm going by the close of business the day it opens.
Okay. Okay, close of business. Okay, what about the healthcare workers? I'm gonna go with a week on the healthcare workers as well. So write those down. So I'm going with a week for healthcare and essential workers, and I'm going with 4 days for the students.
Okay, so I'm going close of business for international students, and I'm going to go 4 days for essential workers and healthcare workers.
Okay.
Okay. So I think, Mark, that you should open this up, and you should have people either vote for you or vote for me. Okay.
That's good.
And then one of us will win. And then out of the people that, that voted, you do a draw, and they get a certificate for like 1 hour of our time.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Okay, where are we gonna post this critter? Should we the Mark and Ronalee draw the vote, and if they
So you have to vote for me to get an hour of my time, and then to win, and you have to vote for Mark. But if Mark doesn't win, then you have no chance of meeting with me.
That sounds awesome. Okay, well now I'm trying to figure out where the heck we're gonna put this, Ronalee.
You're gonna put it on your website.
Okay, it'll go. Okay, here's where
the show notes.
Okay, here's where it's gonna go. It's gonna go in the show notes. We're gonna adjust this right on the YouTube channel. We'll try to find the Facebook one, but mostly go to the YouTube right where you're watching. If you're watching on YouTube, which is most people, go, and after this is recorded, I will have a link, and that link will take you back to a place where you can vote for Ronalee or me. And Ronalee, you have to remind me exactly. Okay, 1 week, 1 week, 4 days.
Yeah, I'll send you an email with reminding you. What we
and we'll do this. And if you back Ronalee, if you back her,
you might win a consult,
and she's closer, then you could win a consult. And if you back me and I am right, then same story. I'll give you a consult as well.
Yeah,
but
and
if you back
one of those
me,
people, you're one of those people that got, you got your application in, so you don't need a consult, you can give it to somebody in your family or a friend.
Awesome. This is fantastic. Okay. This is fun. Okay, but here's the deal. If you back either of us and we are wrong, you don't get no consult.
You don't.
Because you were stupid to believe us, all right?
And of course, if they fill up, Mark, you're going to win. Like, if these programs don't fill up in a week for all of them, you're going to win all 3 of them.
That's right, because it's like what was it? The Price is Right? Yeah. The highest or closest to it without going over. So whoever goes past, that is awesome. That is so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh, Ronalee, this was a riot. I just realized it's 4:58. I have 2 minutes to get on my live for the group. But this is so much fun. Okay, make sure that you guys go click on the links below to go access Ronalee and to hire her. She's awesome. And thank you so much, Ronalee. This was so much fun. And boy, if I showed you the comments piling in here, oh my goodness, there are so many comments. It is hilarious. So funny. Oh, I gotta show you this. I have to show you this right here. Okay. Team Mark. Shelly's with me too. Oh yeah, I've got people here. I've got peeps. Okay, I've got peeps. Let's see if there's anyone else here. See if we've got people.
You know what this means, Mark? You're going to be the one giving out the 3 free consults and not me.
Hey, it's all. Hey, I said I would. Oh man, I did say that, didn't I? Okay, she said. Christine says she already voted for Ronalee. And this, I'm with Ronalee. It's gonna fill up quick. Okay, so we're basically 50-50 here. So we'll see how this goes.
So again, I just want to, I dedicate this session to my children who taught me how to whine. And I hope somebody from immigration is listening to all my whining, and that know that I love your new programs. I love that you're opening it up to more people, but you need to do it fairly.
Yeah. And that's
all I have to
and that is true. Absolutely true.
Yep.
This is hilarious. Ronalee, yes, definitely Mark will be right. Vote for Mark. Let's go, Mark. Let's go, Mark. Okay.
Okay, well, you've already got your fan base. This isn't fair.
What
This is
Ronalee doesn't
rigged.
know is that I'm only picking the ones that are saying vote for me and putting them on the screen because there's so many that are saying vote for you. All right, guys, that was really fun. Thank you so much, Ronalee.
All
What
right,
a
Mark.
wonderful time. Okay, you take care.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye now.
See you, everyone.